this is you. You're standing at the corner and you ask yourself, why is this crosswalk high vis? Well, this one isn't. You wonder how you can learn more, but then you remember, you live in the Upper Ohio Valley, and there are several Mothmen flying over you at any given time. So you signal one of them and yell,
"Hey Mothman, I have a question about infrastructure!"
Mothmen are very interested in road safety. Why do you think they tried to warn us about the collapse of the Silver Bridge in 1967? So he flies down, grabs you, and carries you several hundred meters into the air. From here, you start to notice, wait, is that meant to be a turn lane or an island? And is that one lane or two? Why is there a bike lane on this side, but not that side? Are drivers supposed to yield to pedestrians in that slip lane? And what is up with the general clustercuss of an intersection? You ask the Mothman, can you put me down somewhere safe? To which he responds,
none of your roads are safe.
And carries you away to his secret home under the mountain where you will eventually become a Mothman. Well, that's the end of your story, but the rest of us still need to figure out how to make the road safe. So first, let's talk about what this video won't cover, namely sidewalks. Sidewalks are more complicated than they should be, I mean, all of this is, but in particular, they tend to be the responsibility of neighboring property owners rather than the government. You can learn more about sidewalks in this video, but for things like bike lanes, transit improvements, or traffic calming, as long as it's between the curb lines, that's all government responsibility, baby, and this video will help you to navigate the government bureaucracy that controls streets. So let's start here with you. Looks like the Mothman decided it was worth it for you to participate in the process. That's probably good for you. So first, you need to figure out who owns the street you want improvements on. Some governments have this information on their website, but many do not. So you may want to start by reaching out to your local elected official, who can help you figure it out. If it's owned by your local government, I'm not going to say that makes it easy, but it makes it easier. If your local government has set up a service like 311, you may be able to submit a request through there, and you're basically done. But also, it gets put into a pile with thousands of other requests. If something like 311 isn't available, then reach out to your local elected official again to help you through the process. And maybe reach out to them anyway, because having an elected official make it a priority can move 311 requests closer to the top of the pile. If your elected official isn't supportive, talk to a neighbor and ask them to call the elected official too. Repeat as necessary. From there, it will either go to your city's transportation department, if they have one, or to Public Works. If it's something small or fairly cheap, like upgrading a transverse crosswalk to a high-vis one, they might just put it in their work queue without much additional effort, and you're done. If it involves changes to the right-of-way or construction, however, they're probably going to want to do an engineering study. Let's put a pin in that for now. If it's owned by the state, first you need to determine if what you want to change is the state's responsibility or if they've delegated it to cities. For example, in my state, even if it's a state-owned road, crosswalks are the responsibility of municipalities. So you would hop back over to the local government chain for that. You can ask a public official's office or State Department of Transportation, or DOT, what is a state versus a local responsibility. If it is the state's responsibility, then it sort of depends on what state you live in. In my state, as an example, requests for changes can't come from an average citizen, but have to come from a municipality in writing. Requests are sent to the DOT's district traffic engineer, who then will conduct an engineering study. These studies include a lot of information, like soil condition, weather, omens from the gods, etc. But the main criteria are engineering judgment and warrants. Engineering judgment is basically just vibes, so you, your elected official, and your neighbors can help by making sure the engineers know that the vibes say, do the thing that makes pedestrians safer. The warrants can be a bit more demanding. These are calculations that are used to see if a certain intervention is warranted. These calculations usually come from either state DOT guidance, the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, or MUTCD, or the Manual of the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, or AASHTO, officially known as a Policy on Geometric Design of Highways and Streets, but better known as
the Sacred Jedi Texts.
Actually, no, it's the Green Book.
Ooh, read them, have you? Well, page turners, they were not.
Many of these calculations are based on studies done in the 40s on rural highways and have absolutely the wrong context for keeping pedestrians safe today. If DOT guidance is in the way, contact your state representative and your state's central DOT office and see if you can work toward updating the guidance. If the MUTCD is the problem, work with your federal representative and contact the Federal Highway Administration. They take public comments and update the MUTCD every decade or so, and sometimes put out interim guidance. If the problem comes from the Green Book, that's quite a bit harder. You see, AASHTO is a non-governmental organization whose voting members are made up of state DOTs, so to change the Green Book, you have to convince your state DOT to convince a majority of other state DOTs to make a change. So start by hitting up your state rep and your central DOT office and see where it goes from there. Then, assuming the vibes are good and the warrants are warranted, the project needs to be funded. The city department could apply for a grant, or the elected official could set aside money in the budget to fund it, so keep on them for that. And then you're done. Easy peasy, right? So, look, in general, this work is far from easy peasy. It's more hardy-charty.
Chart is so bitter.
But it is important, and you and your neighbors have the power to get the government to make these changes. So get out there, look for things you want to change, and get started. Make the Mothman proud.
You're doing a great job.
Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and do the other YouTube things, and have a good one.
I'm not in your way, am I?
Oh, you're good.